stop worrying about all of this red, blue bullshit.
I feel like I'm failing or just being ungrateful.
The thing that you're doing wrong if you're poor is you had the wrong parents.
I do feel a little bit gaslit.
But with a heavy heart, I would genuinely recommend that if you're watching this as a young person in the UK, you consider moving.
Because apparently you're young and can't say anything way up until you reach 40, and then suddenly you're 40, what have you done with your life? Okay, so hi everyone. Following up from my last video over a year ago, I'm able to express my thoughts and feelings a little bit more eloquently through the words of others. So in the first minute of my previous video, I realized I talked about a two-party system. I think that we need a change from this constant two-party system that seems to constantly change but never actually, the effects I think on the average person just seem to be the same. Since then, I've found some validation of my feelings online from another creator. His name is Gary's Economics.
The message that I want to give here is stop worrying about all of this red, blue bullshit, okay? It's red, blue, and every single time you get poorer and your kids get poorer and the politicians and the wealthy people who fund them get richer and richer and richer and richer.
It's true that if the economic climate of a country is struggling, everything else struggles. So it is probably the most important part of politics. And I think Gary describes very well why no matter the party, no one feels the effects because of the same economic problems that everyone is too scared to address.
I know economists don't talk about inequality much. That's the reason why I am a multi-millionaire and most economists are not, because I made my money by understanding that inequality hurts the economy. If you've not watched it yet and you don't understand the argument I've been making for a long time, that inequality hurts your living standards, I really recommend you watch the first video on this channel.
So I think Gary does a great job in his videos, and people listen to him because he has achievement in his own merits. He has the power that basically seems to matter in this world, which is money. And he has both his background in economics, so as an actual economic expert, and real world experience to back this up. So to be honest, it would be hard to kind of say he's not an economics expert at this point. And for me, as well as both of those things, I think Gary makes sense in what he's saying. A lot of what he's saying is common sense, relatable. Maybe I'm biased because he's from the East End, so am I. But how he describes being high achieving, admitting the state of the job market, and how he describes leaving his world behind in pursuit of a good standard of living, I guess I personally relate to those. And I would highly recommend watching this stuff. My personal experience as a young person in the UK labour market, I've been told that things aren't that bad, that you just need to work hard, you just need to have the right skills and put your head down. I don't completely disagree with this statement, but I will say these words have haunted me a little bit as I've had a growing shame in me. I feel like I'm failing or just being ungrateful, being unhappy with where I am in life. I've grown up in the UK, born and raised. And I think that I worked hard when I was younger. I got good grades in school. I made it to a top university. And I guess I just expected things to come a little bit easier. And I think Gary's another person who describes this experience really well, which is he even talks about it himself, the reason that he got a good job after university is he got lucky. And obviously he was super smart.
Basically, nobody not from a rich background becomes a trader nowadays. It's almost impossible to get that job. And I got that job partially because I was a very good student. I was a very talented maths student. I got very good grades. I got into a very good university, and I got very good grades at that university. But even on top of that, I needed to win like a national card game to get that job. And I think that shows you, this story is in my book. If you want, you can read my book. It tells you about this. It's almost impossible for ordinary people to get that job nowadays. The thing that you're doing wrong if you're poor is you had the wrong parents. You shouldn't have done that. You should have had the right parents. This is the world that we live in nowadays. We live in a world in which the only way to get rich is to have rich parents. And yet we tell young people, if you are poor, you are a failure, you are a loser, it is your fault. And this is just absolutely devastating for the mental health of young people. So
I have a good job, and I've had good jobs, in the US. And I know a lot of people who've graduated from Oxford and Cambridge in the UK, who've been in the UK all of their lives, and they've struggled in this labour market, which doesn't really make sense. It means that we're not funneling the talent in this country into anything productive, which obviously I think leads to the problems that we're seeing. I do feel a little bit gaslit. As being a young person who's lived abroad, I definitely experienced a better standard of living. I was younger then, and I had an arguably lower skill set. Now I'm back in the UK, I'm just being told that there is no other way of living, and that this is the best that you're going to get. You know, I have a good job. This is technically a little bit above the UK average wage, although I live in London, obviously it's a bit skewed. But even then, I think I'm just above the average London wage, which again, technically I'm a younger person, so isn't that supposed to be good? I don't think that my quality of life is very good. I mean, it's a lot worse than when I lived in the US, and that's just a fact. And I'm older now. I have more skills. I should be on an increase, and at least my standards of living should be able to be increased. And I'm not saying I want to be able to do all of these things. Certain things are luxuries to be able to do. I don't disagree with that. But I should have the option to decide whether I want to do certain luxuries or save my money. And right now I'm not able to do either. So that is a lower standard of living. Living paycheck to paycheck is a low standard of living. And it's not because I have a luxurious lifestyle. I'm back in the UK, I'm being told there's no other way. And honestly, my memories of my previous self are fading away. And I'm wondering, am I just feeling like the grass was greener syndrome, right? It was a while ago, a couple of years now at this point. Maybe I'm just romanticizing, because you always romanticize the past and situations that you're not currently in. So based on that, I also want to shout out EduKate for her video that is rising in popularity. I think she's getting about almost 1 million views at this point.
I chose to leave the UK, why I feel better already for it, and why I would, with a heavy heart, and I mean that seriously, I do love my country a lot, but with a heavy heart, I would genuinely recommend that if you're watching this as a young person in the UK, you consider moving. You're genuinely paid shit. Even if you think you're on a good wage, half of that goes in taxes. That's if you're on a really good wage, right? And if you're not on a good wage, the reason you don't pay half in taxes is because the government knows that you need that money literally to survive. So the money you're making isn't to have fun with, it's literally to get you through the month so that you can work for the next month. If you try to better yourself by going to university, the interest you pay on your education means that it's basically guaranteed that for the rest of your working life, you're 10%, 9%. So 10% of that is going to be taken away from your salary.
It was a very honest, raw video from, clearly she's not the biggest creator, but she obviously got a lot of views, and that says something. It says that a lot of people feel this way. She's also cute, she is very eloquent, so those may be factors, but I like to believe that I personally think that she had a great message as well, because I realize I'm not alone in my shame that's keeping everyone else, I think, from speaking out. All the young people around me feel like this in real life. I don't think that when I talk to other people, anyone necessarily expresses different views. If anything, they're just less outspoken about it. They're more, I would say I'm quite an energetic person, quite a passionate person. But I've never really got a young person like me disagreeing with my views. They're more just beaten down, to be honest. They've just learned to get on with it. Because we've all been told, suck it up, and you guys are complaining over nothing. I have a lot of people my parents' age, including, my bosses at work, who, who kind of scoff at our feelings and say, well, every young generation feels like this. I also feel like we're not necessarily that young anymore. I feel like we're reaching our 30s. By my parents' age, my dad, he had, 2-3 kids by this point. He was married. So I feel like the definition of what a young person is anymore has been skewed as well. That's been increased, because apparently you're young and can't say anything way up until you reach 40, and then suddenly you're 40, what have you done with your life? But anyway, watching EduKate's videos, and I think seeing her views grow, reading the comments, I realized that, you know, I think that we're all right. The people around me that I see, I think my own opinions, and now seeing her views and then seeing the comments, I think that we're actually all right and we are valid. And I hate the fact that we're just so shut down by everyone that we see, like everyone in real life. We'll just tell like, why you feel like this, it's not true. And then because of that, we're shut down about talking about these things because we feel ashamed, because we've been told that the burden is on us, that we are the reason that we are not successful.
They've all got mobile phones, they've all got supermarkets full of food, and you can live relatively cheaply, and they do have most of my cars. I was 33 before I had a car.
How old were you when you bought your first home?
I was 32, 33.
Right, and there are a lot of people who will get... I've got friends who are 32, 33, who have absolutely no chance in hell, despite despite having good jobs that pay decent salaries, of buying a home of their own. Your message is to them, move away from where all your friends and family are and give up on your dreams and your ambitions in life so you can buy a house in Exeter. When did we become a country that had such little ambition?
There was actually an American creator who I think responded to this kind of allegation quite well.
The reason the boomers give us shit about buying luxuries is because back in the 80s, luxuries were expensive, but life was cheap. Now it's been inverted. Our life is expensive, but our luxuries are cheap. So I think this is where the disconnect's happening. For example, in 1980, you could rent a great apartment for $200, but a television would run you $1,000. So if you bought 3 TVs, that would be $3,000. A CD player was $500. A cell phone was $2,000. A personal computer was $2,500, and a microwave was $500. That's $8,500. That is 3.5 years rent on luxuries. And $8,500 was also equivalent to a 20% down payment on a $40,000 home. So it was irresponsible if you didn't budget correctly to buy all these luxuries because it could be holding you back. But today it's flipped. Our biggest luxury is our rent for $2,000. We can now buy 3 televisions for $600. We have a Spotify account, cell phone for $1,000. You can get a computer for $500, a microwave for $200. That's about $2,400 a month. So our luxuries is about 1 month's rent, where theirs was 3.5 years rent. And if you want to put this onto a down payment, even if you took the average home of $420,000, let's bring it down to just $320,000. A 20% down payment on that is $64,000. So if you gave up all those luxuries, you would still owe like $61,000. This $2,400 of luxuries wouldn't even cover your closing cost of $10,000 on that home. So the whole thing's been flipped. So I think when they see us with the TVs, the avocado toast, and the cell phone, they think that's the reason we can't move forward. But why we can't move forward is because housing, daycare, college, and healthcare is so expensive, but those are our necessities. These luxuries are just fun little things that we have.
But sometimes the luxury is just easier to actually obtain versus the things that we actually need. There's obviously a feedback mechanism there. Hearing a voice that I relate to obviously kind of shows the power of the internet and how it can actually be a really wonderful place for finding community and support for good ideas. And I don't think any of us should be ashamed anymore. And just a side note, it's good to actually be able to like rally behind something and say, you know what, that's a fair point. We shouldn't be ashamed of that. Maybe you should be ashamed if you're just, discriminatory. Between Gary's Economics and EduKate, I'm feeling a little bit inspired. And I think the message I got from Gary's Economics videos is maybe people haven't been able to identify the right issues because it's the wrong people looking at the state of society, looking at the state of the UK right now. And it actually does make sense.
Top level economists, i.e. the ones that come from prestigious universities and get the prestigious jobs, overwhelmingly live in lives where they are from elite universities, elite private schools, rich families. Everybody they know is from that background, and they have no fucking idea what's happening in the real world. They've got no fucking idea. So you have this whole world of economics where nobody knows what's fucking happening in the lives of ordinary people.
I think the people most expressing concern are from the younger generation. And by that, I mean people reaching their 30s now. Even millennials are, they're reaching their 40s now at this point, 35. So we're getting up there in terms of we should really be trying to grapple for some power at this point. As these are the people most vocal, maybe we should be looking at things with our eyes and seeing and speaking up about the issues that we see. And with that, I thought I'd make this video.